the cure to all diseases, and the creation of superheroes and bigger, better foods. These are the hopes and dreams of all genetic engineers across the world, and with the creation and development of biomedical devices such as CRISPR-Cas9, a previously thought dream is slowly turning into a reality. But before we open up the crazy can of worms that is genetic engineering, we must first consider the ethics behind the use of biotechnology such as CRISPR-Cas9. But first, what really is CRISPR? Standing for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeat, CRISPR, as it's usually referred to, is used to modify a genome by either removing, adding, or altering sections of the DNA sequence. Discovered originally occurring in archaea and bacteria by Francisco Mojica as a critical part of their immune system, since they had repeating sequences of genetic code, CRISPR detected and destroyed bacteriophages by altering or removing sections of its genetic code. Similarly to how humans build immunity to past infected diseases, CRISPR in nature is able to do the same thing. And in light of this, CRISPR was used in the immunology field, as scientists adapted this CRISPR system to be used within other cells in animals, plants, and even humans. They were able to create a harvesting system called CRISPR-Cas9, which has been used by scientists to edit parts of the genome by removing, adding, or altering sections of the DNA sequence and getting what simply is the most simple, versatile, and precise genetic manipulation tool, consisting of two key molecules that introduce change to DNA. First being the Cas9 enzyme, which is sort of like the helicase enzyme, which act like molecular scissors and cuts the two strands of DNA at a specific point so bits of the DNA can either be added or removed. And the other part being the guide RNA, which binds the DNA, and the RNA guide sequence, which binds and guides RNA to a specific sequence on the genome, which allows the Cas9 to make cuts on both strands of the DNA, leading to the cell being able to recognize that DNA was cut and trying to repair it. DNA can now be manipulated by scientists via a DNA repair machine to add or change one or more genes within the genome of the cell of interest to make changes to the organism. So now that we know how it works and how we can manipulate DNA structure with CRISPR, we can see how the possibilities are endless, with potential clinical uses ranging from treating single gene mutation genetic disorders such as cystic fibrosis, treating diseases such as cancer, hepatitis B, or potentially even high cholesterol. The ability to imitate diseases within animals to create animal models which we could further study on and cure diseases on. The potential commercial uses such as creating bacteria cultures to create cheese resistant to infections, or in agriculture to prevent disease spread. CRISPR is truly a gift to the human race, as its genetic ability to alter a genome in organisms can also lead to us making poison-resistant humans, people with super eyesight, or generations of genetic tanks like Eddie Hall, or as some news outlets such as Medium suggest, create real-life superheroes, able to pick and choose their abilities as if they were being sold on Amazon, and paving the way for a generation of potential X-Men. CRISPR is even being deployed within human embryos to create genetic mutations, such as in 2018 in China, where in vitro fertilization babies, which had CRISPR-Cas9 technology, were able to disable HIV-causing genes coming from HIV-positive fathers to create HIV-resistant humans. However, with all this good that CRISPR-Cas9 can be, like being the answer to household disease names like cancer or other life-threatening diseases, giving the humans the ability to have superhuman abilities and use genetically to engineer lab babies, we must sit and think about the ethics of CRISPR-Cas9 and genetic engineering as a whole, or we may, in future, lose the plot and be doomed for generations to come. Ethically raising many eyebrows since its emergence. Similarly to many other biomedical technologies, CRISPR-Cas9 poses many ethical questions and concerns, since if we make things like CRISPR very easy and effective without proper regulations, ethical issues may unfold. First of all, using CRISPR-Cas9, we could, as mentioned before, cure diseases and disorders, and create model organisms to lead to the advancements in the future. However, when used to create model organisms, the ethical question starts being, what happens to the innocent lives, and who takes care of the dignities of these innocent animals or organisms that are being bred simply just to be tested on and get diseases, such as lab rats, as this now becomes unethical breeding. since their whole life journey of being bred is simply to be tested on and poses many ethical concerns because of the tragic deaths of some people or test subjects used in the trials to find the actual cure to diseases. Secondly, we have the bioethical concern of CRISPR, as sure, it's nice to have cheese creating cultures and microorganisms that create things such as insulin or growth hormone that have strong resistance to illnesses and can't be wiped out simply. These genetically engineered microorganisms have the potential to evolve into new pathogens and create a new emergence of diseases, as vectors may deliver DNA to cells that aren't actually the target and cause unforeseen events and diseases. And thirdly, the big bioethical question is about selective enrichment of organisms like humans and crops, because through selective enrichment, we will now have a homogeneous population and wipe out key aspects that make humans and agriculture great: individuality and uniqueness. Things such as changing reproductive cells may also cause undesirable effects in the future, which causes many future generations to be the same and have the same weaknesses, while agricultural ethical issues, as genetically modified agriculture raises issues like corporate control, potential health and environmental risks, and long-term biodiversity issues. And finally, the ethical concern of ruining social harmony, since the introduction of better and stronger genomes by the wealthy may lead people, such as high school athletes coming from poor backgrounds, to feel pressured into forking up some extra money to genetically engineer themselves to reach a higher level, or young models feeling threatened to pay more money to genetically enhance their appearance. The ethical concerns of CRISPR-Cas9 and genetic engineering devices must be taken seriously. If we don't take these ethical concerns seriously, this amazing biomedical tool we call CRISPR-Cas9 may lead to our downfall and the downfall of society. After talking about the general ethics that society may have on CRISPR-Cas9, we need to remember that many people happen to base their ethical opinions and views based on their religion. So what do the big 5 religions think about CRISPR-Cas9 and genetic engineering on humans as a whole? Well, let's first take a look at Buddhists. Pertaining about genetic engineering, such as CRISPR-Cas9, many Buddhist philosophers seem to largely accept and embrace the idea of enhancements, as it may help them become better Buddhists, as it helps them extend their lives and make people smarter, giving them more time to fulfill their quest on quote-unquote enlightenment. Next up, Hindus. When looking at genetic engineering such as CRISPR-Cas9 from a Hindu perspective, they see it more potentially as dangerous. While supporting the use of CRISPR to address issues such as disease, the use of CRISPR to create the perfect human, in general Hindu belief, opposes this, as they believe in more perfection of the soul rather than the body. And this perfection of the human body could be seen as a way of people to cleanse themselves of misdeeds in their past life and prevent them from working off bad karma, which is very much opposed by the Hindu religion. Now, Judaism, Christian, and Islam, what do they think about CRISPR? Well, all these Abrahamic faiths believe that humans were created within God's image, and the use of treatment or cure or prevention of these diseases are okay. However, we must not stray from the genetically differing creation of God, leading to rabbis, priests, and imams opposing the altar of IVF babies, as it shows lack of faith in God, but they do allow IVF to take place. Now, after briefly going over what the 5 largest religions believe in when it comes to CRISPR-Cas9 on humans, I wanted to offer the Catholic Church's perspective on CRISPR and genetic engineering as a whole. As a practicing Catholic myself, I wanted to understand more. So I asked a fellow seminarian, who is completing his 2nd year of school, to offer more insight upon this topic. So after speaking to him, I learned that the Catholic Church likes to categorize things like CRISPR-Cas9 into 2 categories when it comes to the effects of humans: therapeutic and enhancement. When speaking about therapeutic and enhancements, there's a strong divide between the two, with therapy being strictly doing genetic enhancements such as curing HIVs to promote health as morally sound and acceptable by the Catholic Church. However, when it pertains to enhancements such as parents reaching out and saying, oh, I want to genetically modify my kid to be 6 foot tall because statistically they find more attractive partners, this is what the Catholic Church labels as enhancements. And it disrespects human dignity, since the use of genetic enhancements leads us to stray away from God's creation and the Church. very much does not support genetic enhancements. Aside from this, notable figures such as Pope John Paul II voiced ethical and religious concerns for marginalizations that genetic engineering like CRISPR-Cas9 in the future can create, as it alters human traits, but not only disrespects our God-given human dignity. Catholic teaching states that the dignity of a person must be recognized in every human being from conception until natural death. And aside from this, the fundamental principle expresses a great yes to human life, and this must be the center of ethical reflection on biomedical research. As Dignitas Personae, a 2008 instruction on certain bioethical questions published by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith said, so the Church's view is, what is the goal of genetic engineering, CRISPR, and whether or not it infringes upon the dignity of the human person? Is it theoretically possible that genetic enhancements could be truly beneficial for individuals and society, but at the same time respect the origins of life and integrity of the human person in unity of body and soul? The present state of the scientific process does not meet those requirements, and if it doesn't, well, for those reasons, genetic enhancement of the human embryos is immoral under Catholic teachings. Again, the main question is, what is genetic manipulation for? Once we determine that, we could determine the Church's moral and ethical position on the matter. But the most important thing that we need to keep in mind is, when doing genetic modifications or enhancements, does this recognize the human dignity, the God-given beauty of his creations, and does it respect God's creation? Now that we have general understanding about CRISPR-Cas9 and learned about the perspectives of general ethics and perspectives from religions, I have 3 ethical questions for you to reflect upon and form your own opinions on how ethical the use of CRISPR-Cas9 truly is in the future. First, is it ethical to genetically enhance your kids to make them much smarter or better than others? What measures should be taken into account in terms of consent, and how should biotechnological enhancements be distributed? Second, is it ethical for future generations to use biotechnology to genetically modify, pick, or choose the genetic compositions of organisms? Should there be a limit to how much one could alter their biological makeup? And finally, if you have a not very intelligent kid and you have the option to make it bang average with the use of biotechnology, is it ethical? Is it really considered enhancement, or is it just treatment? Is it ethical to alter one's natural course of someone's development? Well, that's all I have for today pertaining about CRISPR and ethics about CRISPR. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But until then, I'll see you next time.